Don't worry about the weight on the working man. I'll wipe my brow, won't shake your hand. With the way to go is great, but your walls are crushing me. I ain't got a lot left to sing to you.
TV doesn't go.
Hey guys, what's going on? We are rocking it today. What is going on, everybody? We have Chris DeSanto in. What are you doing, buddy? What's going on?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
And you probably noticed that we have changed the name and we've added a co-host. Gary, what's going on, buddy?
What's up? Let me put my jacket on and get my shirt covered up. What's up, everybody? We have Tasty Licks, the brand new music, dessert, all things music and food coming to you. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
We have
and of course,
difficulties. Green screen was messing up.
What's up, Hogan?
We had slight technical difficulties today, but we also have James, the bearded metal chef. What's going on, buddy?
What up?
What is going on? And so just to let everybody know, this is a percussionist or a drummer. What is your moniker in life?
I pretty much just go with drummer. I can play the
Anger,
but I'm not. I don't have like the chimes and stuff, and so let's go with drummer.
Right on, man. Right on. So you are in the punk band My Life in Black and White. What an amazing band. I, Chef, and I'm sure that Gary have been listening to you all day long. Absolutely amazing. Brings me back to the 80s punk music.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely amazing, great stuff.
and for the viewers, they were the intro song. The My Life in Black and White, that was their Working Man song. One of my favorite songs.
Thanks,
From
guys.
the newest album.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just amazingly good. Talented. Go check them out. We definitely are happy to have you on, Chris. So how are you doing? What's going on? What's new?
Good. Just doing the living the COVID life like everybody else is right now. So honestly, I haven't even played my drums in about 15 months. Haven't seen my band members or had a practice. Our last show was December of 2019.
Oh my goodness, man. That's craziness.
It's
have you thought about doing like live shows like online or whatever, or kind of keep things going?
We tried to do some of that kind of stuff, but like it was, I think that our singer, so for those of you that don't know, so we have 3 guitar players. So our singer plays acoustic, we have an electric rhythm, and we have an electric lead guitarist, right? Then obviously bass and drums. So our singer, I think he's done a little bit of acoustic stuff, here and there, and posted some things. But we've talked about wanting to do some of that live stuff, and it just ended up not really working out very well for us, just timing wise. Also, I mean, I live in a house, but I remember being a kid and playing drums and having the cops called on me, and I'm like, I don't really want to be
you don't want that.
the guy. And like now, as like a parent and an adult, I'd be like, if my neighbor was a drummer, I'd be pissed, even though I play drums. So I was like, I don't want to be the guy like banging his drums in his garage. And like,
Well, in order to do a live show where you're all plugged in, you really need to have it from a venue with a big
exactly. Like it just
not be really distorted anyway. So
I feel right
to acoustic.
Yeah,
we just didn't have the opportunity to like try to make it all work together. I mean, kind of off the subject just a little bit is that like one of my guitar players, he has like an autoimmune disease, and so does his wife, and so there was a real concern in the very beginning with the COVID thing of like we cannot risk him getting sick or anything like that, and it was just kind of like everybody was trying to be. I mean, everybody has their own opinions on that kind of stuff, and especially now that we're all getting super, super sick of the whole thing. But luckily, as of right now, everybody in the band's been vaccinated except for myself, but I get my first vaccine on Tuesday, and really that just means that we're that much closer to being able to actually get together. So we're planning on, I would say probably in the next month of actually getting back together. You can see my drums, like, let's see, right kind of just sticking out right there. I pulled them out because I was just like, okay, I needed to see them. I was like, yeah,
Right.
can I still play these?
I miss you.
Still play these, man. So
Before COVID hit, you actually had a new album finished and an album release planned, correct?
yep. So we record and do everything ourselves, right? So my lead guitar player, his name is John Burbank. He does studio work for other musicians as well, and he's done this for years and years and years. And ever since the inception of the band, which was in 2005, I think this was even before John was even in the band. He was doing recordings and stuff for them, and then eventually ended up joining the band. And like you guys know, band-wise, there's rotating members throughout the years, you know, especially when you start a band in like high school and college, and this guy quits, this guy moves away, a guy gets married. I mean, that just happens. So I'm not the original drummer, but to get back to your point, Gary, we recorded the 5th album that the band has done. It was the 2nd album that I've been on. It's called Built for This. So we get in the studio, we're writing the songs. The studio that we have is actually at our guitar player's house. He's got kind of this old outbuilding that he converted into a studio, and that's where we practice and that's where we record and all that stuff. So we went through, we didn't know this was going to happen, right? So we're like, hey, we're coming out with a new record, and it's been like 4 or 5 years since our last one, and had an album release show, and we had shows booked up, and we got pressings for the albums and merch and all this stuff. And then COVID hit, like, I think it was like a couple weeks after the release of the record. And it just, no more venues, no shows. We had to cancel all of our shows, and that's it. And that, I mean, yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah, it's been like that for so many people, and I've talked to a lot of musicians that this is their livelihood, and being able to not go out on the road and trying to do makeshift, what Gary's talking about, even getting a venue to open up to be able to do that is huge. So being able to do it in this time where just nothing's open, bars aren't even open, just starting to open up. So what's your plans going forward? Because it's about ready to go boom. I can tell that there's a lot of people.
Like, we're getting to the point now where everybody's feeling safe, you know, and that's not even just the band. That's like just the population, right? Bars, venues, people wanting to go to shows. I mean, that's something you have to think about too. It's like, okay, the bar is open and the band is comfortable being in a band again and playing shows, but are people going to come? You know what I mean? So for now, we're going to, I mean, we've just missed the camaraderie of even just being around each other, let alone playing music, you know. And it's one thing like to sit at home and play on your guitar, which I do a little bit, but it's like I want to beat the hell out of my drums, man, and I want to play some punk rock music with my band. Like, it's not the same. And even
outside venues will be like where it's at going forward.
Yeah, exactly. So the plan is, like, obviously we hope that we can get back together, we can start practicing again, get our chops back a little bit, knock off some of the rust, and then it's like, let's start playing shows again. You know what I mean? And that's there's only so much of it that's up to us. We have to just play it by ear like we've been doing this whole time, but at least we can start getting back to being ready to play shows again. And we'll probably be there before you're going to see the floodgates open, where all the bars and all the venues are open and everybody's comfortable going out, but we got to start somewhere. So we're hopeful that that's going to happen. I mean, hopefully, like in the summertime, you know, which is coming up soon. So,
yeah,
I'm starting to see like a lot of bands putting out like tour dates and stuff like that for shows and stuff like that. And personally, I do love like outdoor venues, like amphitheaters and stuff like that. It kind of gives it more like acoustically, kind of like, or more sound, like, you know, it brings more sound out to me.
A little about the band. I'm sorry, James.
No, you're good. You're good.
Now, My Life in Black and White has been in existence for at least 15 years, I believe.
2005, yeah. So was it 16 years now? Yeah.
You've been with them about 7, correct?
I've been in the band for 9 years, since 2012.
So how did you become the new drummer for My Life in Black and White, and where were they at before you entered the band?
So when the band started, it was when guys were in college together, you know, like and we're all from the Portland, Oregon area. So they were going to Oregon State together. And so oddly enough, the rhythm guitar player, Andrew, he's been my best friend since high school. So we played in bands together when we were younger, and I knew, I knew John, the lead guitar player. I knew Dylan. I knew all the guys in the band, but especially being a drummer, bands, like I said, they come and go. You're in one band with these guys, and then you leave and you start another band with one of those guys and two other guys. I mean, that's just kind of how it works, especially when you're younger. So that band started off with guys that only two original members are in the band, from back in the 16 years ago. And that's Dylan, who's the singer and basically the guy that writes the songs. He brings the bones of the songs, and we put all the stuff together. But
he's a great voice too. His vocals are amazing.
Oh, absolutely. So
I'm not going to tell him you said that, though. It'll just blow up. I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to tell him. They say that your drummer's really good. I'll be like, don't tell him that. Just keep that between us. So I'll return the favor. Anyway, so yeah, those guys, they started a band just like out of college, and it was like if you go back and listen to some of the old stuff, you can see how the band has evolved, and any band that's been together for 16 years is going to change. I mean, especially when you have new members and stuff that add their input and the type of stuff that they like to play. So they were kind of like Irish drinking, kind of almost piratey, folky punk rock. Like, let's go to the bar, let's drink some whiskey, let's have a good time. And we still have part of that essence in our band now, but you got to think, in 16 years, every guy in our band is married, and 3 out of the 5 guys have kids.
Yeah.
And so things change when you're married and you have kids and you're 40.
The band evolves as your life evolves.
Exactly. I mean,
right.
The things what you care about when you're 20 is getting, drunk with your buddies and having a good time and partying. And what you care about when you're 35 or 40 is your family. And so you can tell if you listen to the songs and listen to the lyrics and stuff, that things change. We write songs about, like Lost, and songs about our kids and how hard it is to like go on the road and leave your family behind. Whereas when you did that when you were younger, you didn't care because you didn't really have anything to leave behind. So it didn't really matter. So things like that, not only with the members, but with the songwriting, obviously evolve as well. But the original drummer's name is Cody. They had some other guys here and there, but they really got kind of the base of the band together a couple years after the band started. And the old drummer's name was Cody. I'm still friends with him. We're all still friends. And he ended up, at one point quitting the band, and then I kind of filled in for a little bit. And then he broke his leg. And so they asked me to fill in because I had done that in the past. So I filled in, and that was in like 2010 or so. And then he got back in the band, and then he decided to quit again. And he was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And they wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt the first time that he wanted to come back in the band because he was an original member. And then the second time it was just kind of like, all right, dude, if you're going to quit, then we're going to move on and find somebody else. And then they just called me up because they knew me. Like I said, I've known all those guys for years, and they were just like, hey, do you want to fill in and be the drummer? And at that time, the band was on a hiatus for like a couple of years. So from like 2010 to 2012, like late 2012, they weren't doing anything. Like there was no
pre-Capitol Records, correct?
So we weren't on Capitol. I don't know if there was something on
one of the albums that says Capitol. That's probably where I got.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that. I don't know if I don't know about that. But I'll look.
Maybe I know something you did.
Not that I know of, but we have a label now. And our label is based out of Germany, so it's really like not even it's not, it's more of a distribution kind of happens. So basically that record Columbia is the first record that I play drums on. And that was kind of a let's get, and that's what Working Man is from Columbia. And that record was released in 2014. So we just wanted to play music again. Like the band wanted to get back together again. I wasn't going to just join the band for nothing. Like, if you want me to be in the band, let's go, let's do something. So we start writing some new songs. I start learning the old songs. And then we kind of just decided, let's have like a comeback show kind of a thing. Like, hey, we're still here. And we did. And then we started to kind of feel that people were still interested in listening to our music. And so we're like, let's write a new record. And this is going to be, and since then, since 2012, since I joined the band and our bass player Mole has been in the band, that's been the lineup the entire time. So everything that's been recorded up into that point is all the same 5 guys. So, I mean, you know, I think at this point, the lineup in the band now has been the lineup longer than it hasn't been the lineup, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Gotcha.
so at this point, this is the band, right? And so we came out with Columbia. And then we have, you know, friends that play in different bands that are on like Fat Records and stuff like that. And so we've been playing shows with one of our good friends, our band called Get Dead. They're on Fat Records. And they played a show with us in Portland, and they had just got back from a European tour. They had a fill-in bass player. Their bass player is a teacher. So he's like, I got to teach. I can't go on this tour. So they get this guy who plays bass to fill in for him, and he played a show with us, and he was like, hey, I want to introduce you guys to this label and distribution company called Gunner Records in Germany. And, you know, we're like, you know, whatever. I mean, especially like, you know, you hear that. I've heard all that. I've been on a bunch of labels, you know, and I didn't really know anything about them. And you just kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt, especially like the older you get, you just kind of, if cool things come across now for us, that's great. But we're not sacrificing a bunch of stuff to try to be rock stars. I mean, that's like way in the past for us. So back when we came out with that record in 2014 and we're playing more consistent shows, that guy from Germany said, hey, let me hook you up with this label. And like the next day, this dude calls us and is like, hey, I want to put out your record here in Europe, and I want you guys to come out here and tour. And so and I mean, none of us had ever even been to Europe to do anything like that before. I mean, we've been on tour before, but it's West Coast tours or, you know, just US tours and stuff. We had never done like a European tour before. And we had toured, I've toured in different bands before, and the other guys have toured in different bands all over the country, but nothing like being able to go to Europe. And so we went out there in 2014 or it might've been 2015, for like 3 weeks, and we went to like just a handful of different countries and played in Germany and, you know, just a bunch of different places. And that was pretty sweet. So we got to do that and come back, and then we just, you know, play a lot of local shows and stuff. Like I said, I mean, you know, a lot of the guys being, you know, older guys now with families and stuff like that, you only get a certain amount of time to be able to get, you know, and we all have regular jobs, right? So it's like you have to try to balance your work life, your home life, and then the band as well too. But we play a lot of shows in Tacoma and Seattle as well. And we actually, I think, have almost a bigger following in Tacoma and Seattle maybe than we do in Portland, and maybe just because they don't get to see us as often as people do.
The viewers know you are an Oregon-based band, right? Yeah,
we're based at Portland, but you know, Seattle's like only a few hours away, right? So we can drive up there, play a show, and come back. Tacoma's even closer, so it's Tacoma and then Seattle, and those are 2 big cities in Washington. So we play in Portland. What's that?
It's a pretty good. And I don't mean to interrupt. You're probably longer-winded than I am, which is very hard to do.
Yeah.
We're just squeezing questions and stuff so we can get things. So apologize if I interrupt, but the Pacific Northwest is a very good region for the style of music. And I know you mentioned kind of the piratey thing. I liken the music to more of like a cross between Social Distortion and Dropkick Murphys. Like it's kind of like a blend. I interpret it, but you're in a good region for that style of music, though.
I think so, yeah. And those are 2 bands that are very common that people compare us to: Dropkick, Flogging
Mary, Molly, yeah.
Molly.
Mary.
I don't think
I don't want to plug Mary. She get pissed.
Don't plug Mary.
I knew it was an M.
I knew it started with an M though. So yeah, I think so too. And you know, California is the same way, and we'll go down there and play some shows and stuff if we can, and if it works out for us. But I think this area is good for that kind of stuff. It seems to be so far. It's worked out for us this long. So.
Yeah, for what I've listened to, like I said, I've listened to it for the past couple of days, especially today at work. And I get like it's like a energetic kind of flow. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to just keep doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, even just listening to it kind of gets you going. So I see why like Gary listens to it, because when he's making product or whatever. So it's like gets him going. You know what I'm saying? So it just you constantly want to move. So I mean, that's what I like about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it shows when we play shows too. I mean, like I'm sitting back there playing drums and I'm watching people like still moshing and stuff to our music, and I'm like, dude, if I did that, I'd break a hip and pull a hamstring, and I'm just like, and these guys are still out there, you know, rocking out to our stuff, and so that's what makes us still want to be able to do that. You know, it's like at this stage, we've played music for so long that it's just cool that we still get to play together. We're still buddies. We get to play shows. We get to go on tour and do stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be all encompassing that's everything that our lives will revolve around. You know, it's kind of a luxury at our age to be able to do that kind of stuff still.
Oh, for sure.
Find your music. Like if I just learned about My Life in Black and White, obviously I can't go to Sam Goody or Tower Records right now because they pretty much don't exist anymore. If I want to download your music, where would I go? Like, where you guys platform that? Is there anything I could buy online?
Yeah, so you can stream. We're on all of the different providers for music. So Apple, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Bandcamp. So any of those platforms, you can go and listen to it for free on Spotify. If you want to support the band, you can go to Bandcamp and like buy our albums or buy merch, stuff like that. And again, I mean, like we were going to have a lot more, the ball was going to be rolling a lot more pre-COVID, because it's like we have a new record, we're going to have all these new merch, we're going to, you know, make sure that all the website and all that stuff. And then it all just kind of came crashing down, and we're like, okay, let's just pump the brakes and just wait till this blows over, and then we'll start to try to pick things back up again, which is what all bands have had to do that. I mean, we have the luxury of not having this be, like you said before, where this is people's livelihood, man. Like we know tons and tons of traveling musicians, whether it's solo artists or full on bands that just got completely screwed because of the pandemic. So
Right. So we'll change kicks a little bit here. So what inspires you? So growing up, what music inspired you? And then what drummers or percussionists inspired you to keep doing what you're doing?
It's a good question. I grew up listening to rock music. My parents listened to rock music. I listened to like 80s rock and stuff. My favorite band is the Beatles. It always has been. It always will be. I still listen to the Beatles. I love the Beatles. I always will. I know that could be a cop-out answer, but it's the truth. My parents had a record player and a ton of records. We always listen to music. And then, like, as I got into caring about music and realizing that I was a musician, I started playing drums when I was 12, and I'm 38 now. So I've played for 26 years. So when I was 12, I started listening to
So who was the relative that bought you the drum set to piss your parents off at 12?
My parents did. So I started playing. Playing guitar. So I got a guitar, and I was like, I suck at this. Like, this is so hard. I suck at this. There was no YouTube or any of that stuff. This was like the early 90s, right? I'm like,
I know what you're talking about.
This guy telling me what to do, and I have like this book, and I'm like, dude, I'm not a guitarist. But and this is the truth. I've always said this. I felt like I could play drums. I just felt like I had rhythm, but it wasn't coming out in guitar. And so when I was younger, in like elementary and middle school, I liked to snowboard, and my parents were like, here's the deal. You can either snowboard or you can play drums, but you picked two very expensive hobbies, and we're not going to pay for both. So you have to choose what you want to do. And like, I kept snowboarding and stuff just for fun and everything. But as far as drums go, my parents bought me a drum kit. And as soon as I set it up in our basement, I could play like 5 or 6 different beats, like right off the bat. First day, I set it up, and my parents were like, "Holy crap! Like, he actually like has rhythm. He knows how to play drums." And that was, I mean, I literally have not stopped. This is the longest I've gone without playing drums ever, like ever. I mean, it's just crazy how long it's been since I played. But anyway, so when I started playing drums and I was getting out of the grunge phase, like we were all listening to Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Nirvana, I found Green Day, I found Offspring, I found Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, I found like Less Than Jake, Rancid, you know, Pennywise, Bad Religion, all of a sudden I'm like, I hear like a Green Day song, and like Gary said, like you could go to Sam Goody and there was like a punks, or it'd be like, if you like this, you might like that. And at the time, like I wouldn't even know who the band was, but I'm like, okay, this band, like if it says I like Pennywise, maybe I'll like this Bad Religion band. And I grabbed their album, you know, their CD, and I'm like, holy crap, like this. Okay, so then I was just like, I'm all about the punk rock from then on out. And that
was a time frame too where there was every summer there was huge festivals and tours.
So that was the other thing, Warped Tour. Yeah. Like, I've been going to Warped Tour since like the mid to late 90s. I think my first Warped Tour was like 1997 or 98 or something like that. So that's another thing. So you start like, you know, you go to one of those and you're going to listen to 4 bands, and you could walk away having 4 other favorite bands you never even heard of before. And that's how they're getting their name out there, is they got picked up to do some Warped Tour stuff. And so, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So as far as like, I couldn't help but to want to play punk rock stuff. And I think, you know, like I said, being a snowboarder and skater and all that kind of stuff, that was just the era back then. That was what was cool. That was what I was into. And so I just kind of stuck with that. I like metal too. Like I love metal. I have, when we get done with this, I'll send you guys a link to one of my old metal bands. So that'll really get you up and going. So I love double bass. I still play double bass a little bit in this band, just a little bit.
Cool.
And so I'm a metalhead too. So I love metal bands. I love like Killswitch Engage, and you know, just I like a lot of different metal bands. So so as far as like drummers go, I mean, when I was younger, like it depends on the genre, but if I'm just talking about specifically a drummer, like obviously Neil Peart is incredible, you know, rest in peace. Sucks that he passed away recently, but he's just an amazing drummer and percussionist. A band that you might not think that is a band that I like is Dave Matthews Band, and Carter Beauford, the drummer for Dave Matthews Band, is one of the greatest drummers ever. He is unbelievable.
Musician-wise, Dave Matthews has a lot of great musicians.
Ridiculous. Top-notch musicianship. So I don't like all their stuff. I've been to a lot of Dave Matthews concerts, and it was really what got me into it was Carter being such a great drummer. I mean, you watch the guy live too, and it's just he's one of those drummers that I'm like, I should just quit, because there's no way that I'm ever gonna be able to be, you know, like that. And it's not even my style, but again, there's a difference between like appreciating a drummer who's like a really good punk drummer, like a Travis Barker, let's say, right? Who's awesome, and I love Travis. And then there's just being a drummer as a musician and listening to different drummers for just them being a percussionist and not necessarily caring about the band that they're in, you know? So I have a kind of an array of different drummers like that. But yeah, as far as like punk drummers go, I mean, Travis was like, you know, I started listening to Blink-182. They had an old original drummer, Scott, and then all of a sudden they got Travis, and Travis was the drummer for the Aquabats. And I listened to
I remember the Aquabats
because I like ska music and stuff. So I listened to like a bunch of, you know, bands, like I said, Less Than Jake, and, you know, like the Pie Tasters and all that kind of stuff. And so then they get this Travis guy in the band. I'm like, that dude was the drummer for the Aquabats, but he used to wear like a weird costume and stuff.
Yeah, they wore like the mask, like
superhero stuff. Yeah. And then so I already knew who he was, and I knew he was good, because if you go back and listen to the Aquabats that Travis is drumming on, it's fast paced stuff. And then after that, it was just like,
and he's working with MGK right now, and his MGK's last album that he did all with Travis together, amazing.
Yeah, and he works with a ton of different guys, and he's all over the map, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of different guys out there and stuff. But as far as like a punk drummer goes, I think I definitely have always kind of admired what he does.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So your parents actually bought you. See, that's the whole thing is that when your parents know that this is a passion for you, they help you out. So my first guitar was when I was 14. Before that, I got a hand-me-down clarinet, and I played in band, but it just wasn't my thing. I played like to go to free football games. So
yeah.
It was still cool. It was still cool. And
I
you know,
did the same thing.
Yeah, that's what you did it for us. So I just like to get into football games, and you know, it's still fun to play music. but guitar was my thing. And I remember when I got it, it was 7-8 hours a day. I wouldn't put it down. And absolutely, you just know it's your thing when you get it. It's just when you picked up the drums, it's just like, this has always been me, and it's always been something. Yeah. So that's a really cool. I love that about musicians. Now, when you're creating some of your own beats, what kind of goes into your mindset to be able to create a new song and kind of go along with, are you playing off a riff, or are you just kind of creating your own style?
Yeah, I would say so. With My Life in Black and White, like, for the most part, our singer Dylan is the one who's writing the songs, right? So he's writing them with the expectation that when he's writing it acoustic, so he's sitting at home, he's maybe writing some lyrics down. I'm not exactly sure his very beginning process exactly, but I'm sure he's got his guitar in his hand. He's coming up with a riff, or he's got some lyrics, or both, and he's putting something together. He brings that to practice, right? I call that the bones of the song. He's like, here's the bones, right? Here's the chorus that I came up with. Here's, the verse or whatever. And then really everyone in the band, and this isn't all bands. I've been in bands where it's like one dude pretty much writes the stuff, not necessarily for the drummer, but as far as like the chord structure and stuff goes. But in our band, I would say that pretty much everybody in their own way is a songwriter, right? So I like to consider myself an arranger. So I'm not writing the song because I'm not coming forth with chord progressions or the actual notation of the song, but I might say, okay, let's like maybe cut this part half time right here. Let's extend this. Let's not go into the chorus yet. How do we want to start the song? So I kind of like to
mold it to your style, or mold it to where your beats are, or whatever you're going to kind of make.
And so it depends on the feel of the song that Dylan comes up with. And then that being said too, with this band, there's always been kind of this a style, like you guys were saying. It's got that folky punk Americana kind of a, has a little bit of that drinking music. It has a little bit of that kind of shuffle, beat to it and stuff like that. So I try to think like, what works best for this band with my style of drumming, depending on how the song is flowing. So
right.
I don't necessarily think about like my beats and stuff all that much. It's just kind of, I might try something like, okay, we're playing it fast, and I'm like, no, we either need to slow it down, or let's try playing this in a different, a different time, maybe changing the tempo a little bit, something along those lines. But really, it's more of a natural feel. I mean, it just, whatever feels natural. And if you start rocking on something and it doesn't feel right, then maybe you try something different and change it up.
Right on. Very cool.
I got a question for you, because most people in here, I mean, there's one guy watching it who is a vocalist in a metal band on the East Coast in New York, Ben Jammin Reviews, amazing vocalist. If you Andy and James, I'll have to send you links to his stuff. But
for sure,
most of us don't know what it's like to perform in front of a crowd, whether it be 5 people, 5,000 people. Can you explain what it's like when you had your very first live performance and not just like for your friends in the garage, but like an actual show where people were coming out to see you, how you felt then, and then how you felt for your last live performance? Is like, do you still feel the same? What's it like to sit there knowing people are waiting for you in that crowd? And do you have any kind of like fears? Are you sweating before you hit the first beat? I mean, like, take us through that experience.
So playing live is the whole reason why you do it, to me. So when I very first started playing, my very first show was a battle of the bands when I was in high school. So was I more nervous when I was like 14 or 15? Obviously, yeah. Like, because now you're playing in front of like kids you go to high school with. And right. You're like playing like we played like Blink-182 covers and stuff. And, like, we had a couple of our own songs and stuff. And so, yeah, you're more nervous, like you get, but I wouldn't say it's like, I don't get nervous anymore. I get like I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, if we're at the show and it's hurry up and wait, like, oh, you gotta get to the door and load in at like 5 o'clock, but you're headlining, so you're not gonna actually go on till 11 o'clock at night. It's like, I want to play. Like, let's go, let's play. You know, so that waiting beforehand, you're just like you're just excited. Like you want to play. You know, so but that whether it's a 30-minute set or however long, 45 minutes, an hour, however long your set is, that whole time that you're playing, if people are rocking out and moshing, and you know, you guys have listened to this, there's a lot of songs that there's gang vocals and stuff, and we have guys, you know, and fans that have listened to us for years, they know all the words. And so it's like I'm sitting back there playing a song that was written years and years ago. They know all the words. They're up at the front. They're wanting to sing in the mic and stuff. So it's like, that's what it's all about. Like, that's what it makes it worth it. There are times where you're like, oh man, I got to like load up. I got to work today. I got to load up my gear. I got to like meet up with the dudes and drive out here to like play this show. And we've all been guilty of being like, I don't even, you know, and kind of mopey about it. And as soon as you get on stage, it's like, this is why we do this every single time. It never has changed. It's always been that way. And I always
change based. Like, there's some crowd that just kind of sit there and just watch, right? Like when I go to concerts, I just stand back and watch and let the crazies go in front of me and do what they're going to do. I like.
So do I. So do I.
If the crazier the crowd gets, does that kind of like get you? Like, yeah, you just start maybe hitting a little harder.
Yes. If the crowd is into it, yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're playing in front of like nobody, the perfect example is like when we played that European tour, right? If you're playing like a Tuesday night in some Eastern German town that no one's ever heard of before, there were shows where we literally were like, how are we even going to make the money to like pay for the gas that we, you know what I mean? I was like, there's like 6 dudes here, and one of them's the bartender, one of them's our tour manager, and the other ones are like the other band. Like, this isn't even, we're not even, you know, but then you play a show on a weekend and there's, you know, hundreds of people, thousands of people. It just depends on what you're doing. But, so I still enjoy it no matter what. I'm in the zone, right? Like, no matter what, I'm in the zone. But yes, there's a big difference between playing to 5 people who aren't paying attention and then playing a show where, like you said, Gary, like they're paying and waiting to come see you, to sing your songs, to hear you play, you know, to compliment you about, you know, sounding good, or that they're stoked to see you guys, or they haven't seen you in a few years. And I mean, all that kind of stuff. Like that's to me, that's what it's all about.
Now, you said the word tour probably about 1,000 times in the 41 minutes we've been talking. Nobody here, maybe with the exception of a couple guys in the chat, even know what it's like to be on a tour. And I've seen one of your music videos was actually filmed from like the touring process. I think you guys are in the van. If I remember right, it's a larger van. You guys piled in. You're just filming as you are traveling. Because look on YouTube, you'll see the videos of the band. Great videos. What's it like being cramped in a van with 5 other guys, which I'm sure days at a time you're just driving to get to each destination? What's that experience like? For someone who's never done that, other than road trips with mom and dad as a kid, we've never toured nothing.
It's like living in a 1-bedroom apartment with like your 6 buddies or something like that, and it's stinky, and you're like, it depends. It depends. So it depends on like how much support you have while you're on the road. So let me just start off by saying, typically a band like us, we're a DIY band, man. We do it ourselves. We're not flying in a plane. We're not on a tour bus. We had a van and a trailer for a really long time, and that was how most of the tour was done. The European tour is different, right? Because you're not driving there. You have to fly there. So you're renting more like a Sprinter van. And then the Sprinter van has a big open back in it, depending on what one you get. So you can actually put your gear and your luggage and stuff in the back of the van. And on that tour, we had a tour manager, right? So the cool thing about that tour is, and having a tour manager, is that he's making sure we're getting paid. He's got the GPS going to make sure that he knows when the show starts and when we're supposed to be there. He's like the tour dad, right? He's like making sure that we're doing, but we're responsible guys, so it's not that hard to keep us in line. But at the same time, it's nice having a tour manager. But you have to be able to get along with your band members, and there are definitely times where someone might get a little too drunk and might say something they regret, or you haven't really slept in a long time, so you're frustrated with somebody, or it doesn't really happen with us all that much. I think the older you get, the more mature you get, and the more you've done it, I think the more you understand how it works, and so you can be a little bit more go with the flow with certain things like that. But there are personalities, mine included, obviously, that can be difficult to deal with, on a day in, day out basis. And I know who I am, and all the other guys do too. So sometimes you just got to be like, for the rest of the day, I'm going to go over here and do my own thing. I'll see you guys at the club later tonight because I need some space and you need some space for me too. So
Chad, Andy just highlighted Chad, is a former, he's retired now, but a Canadian wrestler. He's in Canada, in Saskatchewan. So he's saying, so when you're on stage, just like what it takes to be a wrestler, you just go out there, tunnel vision, ready to perform, lights are on, you're just focused, ready to go.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a good comparison, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anytime you're doing any kind of a performance, if you're an actor in a play, if you're a wrestler, if you're playing a sport, you're a basketball player, anytime you're performing your craft, what you love to do in front of people that are focused on you, I think that most people probably get that same feeling. I think some people might get a little bit more apprehensive about it. Some people might get the butterfly, thing going on. But most of the time, even when that happens, it goes away once you start playing. Like once you get in that groove, like you said, tunnel vision's a great way to say it. You're locked in. You're locked in.
All right. So Andy's named this show Tasty Licks. If most people don't know, licks, if you're playing a lick on a guitar or something like that, so that's where licks come from. We're not talking about actually physically licking something. But
no.
Beards and desserts, right? So we have James, who is an actual chef who makes amazing cookies, and I've been lucky enough to have some of his cookies. But on tour, I'm sure you don't have a guy named James sending you cookies. What's the food life like on tour, and what is something tasty that you would have on tour? Are you just eating like gas station hot dogs and Hot Pockets?
This is a great.
Also, with that name, like because I thought of that name. I was going to work the other day, and I'm just rattling my brain with names, and I'm like, licks. I'm like, tasty lick. I'm like, it can mean obviously food, and I can obviously mean guitar, guitar riff or whatever. You're playing that, and I'm like, bro, it works. It's funny because it's funny because it works. And I'm like, I gotta throw that out there. So it's
right.
So it was just funny. I kept laughing about it.
When I first saw that, I was like, yeah, if they're gonna change it from beer to dessert, now it's Tasty Licks and it's music and dessert. I mean, you take a lollipop, an ice cream cone. I mean,
we can go beyond desserts because like James usually does make a dessert tonight. But I think talking like Andy and I have talked behind the scenes, talking to the bands more than just about, oh hey, how'd you write the song? Like, especially a touring band, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
And people like to hear these things, and we don't want to just ask you like, okay, how'd you write a song? What's your favorite?
That's a great question. I love.
We want to know, what are you putting in your mouth?
Yeah, especially that kid. Right?
That's right.
While you're on tour,
what's the touring food of you guys?
So
choice.
Like I had said before, when you asked the question about like how is it when you're on tour, when I say like tour support, that really is about like, it's kind of like a network, right? So like I'll go back to the European thing again, because when you do something like that, you're really hoping that like there's a network of people that are like, okay, this band is coming to our state or our country, and there's places like you're staying with somebody at their house, or you might be staying in a hostel, or so sometimes there were situations where we were staying at people's houses and they were cooking us dinner and making us breakfast and stuff. And it was really awesome. Like it was super cool. And then there was days where I'm like, okay, we have to drive like 8 hours to get to this next place by a certain time. And then after that show's over, we have to sleep and then get up and do that again or something like that. So we don't have like and you're staying in like, I mean, dude, we've stayed in some great places. We've stayed in some just absolutely awful places.
They'll leave the light on for you.
And so as far as food goes, there's plenty of gas station. Like I'm grabbing a bag of Funyuns. I'm going to grab like, this hot dog. I'm gonna get, you know, whatever it is.
Keto that's been there for 7 hours, you know, something.
Yeah, so it depends on like how health conscious you are. Some guys in our band are much more health conscious than others. I'm not the super health conscious one when it comes to some of that stuff. The thing that was odd for us, funny story, in Europe is that when they asked us in the beginning, they'll say, does anybody have any food allergies? And or are you vegan or gluten-free or anything? And we were like, no, like we're good. We eat meat. We don't have any allergies. We're all good. So for the first week of tour, every time we were getting hooked up with like a person who was letting us stay at their house, or in Europe, things work a lot differently than they do in the United States. A lot of times in Europe, the venue will find a place for you to stay and they will have food for you at the club. Whether that means they got pizza for you or they made something for you or whatever. In the States, it doesn't work that way. Like it just doesn't. The venue's like, you're playing, you're lucky that we're paying you, bye. Like that's, at least in my experience and in our experience, the European thing is more of a hospitality type of thing. So for the first week, they're like, oh, we made you this like veggie stew. And oh, we made you these like veggie sandwiches and this and this. And I'm like, where's the meat, man? Like, what the hell is going on?
Is there meat in the fridge?
So we get to Slovenia and we're staying with this girl, super sweet punk rock chick, letting us stay at her house. And she makes us this like veggie dinner. And she goes, it's too bad that you guys are vegetarian because like I really make these good. And we're like, wait a second, we're not vegetarian. What are you talking about?
Who said that? Who broke it out?
Writer, like we got your writer. And a writer is like what kind of like the bio. For those who don't know. She's like, your writer says you guys are vegetarian. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, no, we said that we. And so from then on out, the next morning she's got like making bacon and eggs and all this stuff. I'm like,
hell yeah.
Like I thought everybody was just like, I'm like, am I just weird? Like nobody eats meat around here. Everybody's eating like veggie too. Like this is so bizarre. But there was a mistake in the fine print there, and it got
right.
For a while.
Well, in the States, unless you're a major act, the venues aren't providing anything for you anyways. I know most bands starting out, or even like mid-level bands, well, maybe not mid-level bands, but maybe the lower-level bands, a lot of the venues or clubs require you only get paid on how many people you bring to the door. So some of them, like you got 100 tickets, you sell those 100 tickets, you get $5 a ticket or whatever.
Sometimes that's true. That's why I would say in the beginning, like when you're a younger band, let's say you're like a high school band or a young band, right? And you're playing local shows. At least back in the day, when I was, 20 years ago, there was what we call pay to play. And that's where a venue's like, hey, you're a young band. No one knows who you are. I'm going to give you these tickets. They're $10 at the door or $8 if you sell the ticket. For every ticket that you sell, you get that extra $2 per ticket or whatever. So now not only are you ensuring that you're excited, you get to play a show, you're a young band, but you might actually make a little bit of money. Being a band, a mid-level, low-level band, whatever you want to call us, we're still doing everything ourselves.
Oh no, you're not low-level, brother.
Well, no, definitely not low-level.
We're not going to do pay to play. We just don't do that. We have enough of a reputation now. We have enough of a following to not have to do that anymore. But it is kind of the way that you get your foot in the door when you're a younger band. And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to play shows. But as far as doing the tour, like let's say for the States, if we do a tour, it's like all on us. Like the European thing was like we had a distribution company and we had a company who was a booking agency, right? So the booking agency is like, these are the dates you guys are going to come out. We got you this show, this show, this show. They help you with booking the hostels, with the hotels, like getting you meals, like they do all that stuff. When we don't have that and we're doing it ourselves and we're doing it in the States, we're the ones booking the shows. We're the ones figuring out where we're going to stay. We have to make sure that we're getting guaranteed from the vendors that are going to pay us enough money that we know that we have enough money for food, for gas, for lodging, stuff like that.
Water. What?
That's really interesting.
You hear that noise?
Somebody's broken in on our stream.
That's James.
No, my mom.
Oh, okay. He's talking to those beard people again.
So I've never really been in the band. Like I've been in kind of bands, but nothing really big. But my brother-in-law is a pretty good musician in Arizona, and there's a few clubs that Andy would probably be familiar with in Arizona that are famous for the pay-to-play. Like you had the Mason Jar, you had Big Fish Club. What else is there? Hollywood Alley. There's a lot of the pay-to-play, and that's how they, because there's no risk for them. Like they're going to get the entertainment, and then the band's motivated to get people to watch them. So the clubs are making money basically with no effort at all.
Yeah, it happens. It's unfortunate when, some venues will say, if you don't sell X amount of tickets, there's not going to be a show or whatever. It doesn't really happen too often, especially if you have a handful of bands. It's not just, you're going to watch 4 or 5 bands play. And the thing that kind of sucks now is before, years ago, it was like if you were the local band, like for example, before I was even in My Life in Black and White, they were opening shows for like Flogging Molly and bands like that and stuff. If you were the local band and you were known and you could bring a local presence, and then the headlining bands that were on tour were obviously bringing the majority of the people, you'd get to be the opener. You might have you got to know the club promoter and, hey dude, like we saw that so-and-so's coming into town, we really want to play on this show and blah blah blah. I mean, there's politics that go into that stuff, but that was something that was feasible. Nowadays it's like, this band's on tour, they're taking these couple bands with them, and that's it. And those are the 3 bands that are playing. There's not a local opener. The local opener thing was just huge, because not only did it help get your name out there, because now you got a bunch of fans watching a band that you kind of sound like, that they'd probably be interested in getting your name out there. And you also got to play with bands that you love, which was awesome. And all of us in this band and in other bands we've been in have been lucky enough to play with a lot of cool bands that we really liked. And some of the old punk bands I played with, like Taking Back Sunday, I've played with Finch, I played with the Plain White Tees, I played with, tons of different bands. And so that's what's that?
All great bands, yeah. Love those.
Yeah,
guys.
it just doesn't exist
like
anymore.
White
It's just changed. Like it's just changed, and we like doing everything ourselves because you're in control of your own destiny that way. But it's difficult. Like it's not.
Most music is done DIY these days, especially in the hip hop industry. A lot of them just with the equipment and the systems that are available just on your computer. A lot of these guys are doing themselves anyway. So the big industry music is kind of going away, and I think a lot of emphasis is more on those who bust their ass. And like your band, self promotion, DIY things you can cut out the expenses and do everything yourself. And I just think you're more likely to succeed if your success is based on you and not somebody else.
Absolutely, and I think most bands would agree with that too. If you get lucky enough to be discovered, or whatever it is, and that happens, awesome, good for you. People can be, use the term, you're a sellout. It's like, do you want to be a musician or not? So
I just always tell people, if you think you're a sellout, Real Big Fish wrote a song about that.
They did.
Go listen to it and you'll be all right.
So it's like, bands have gotten screwed. The thing is, the internet age, technology, like you were talking about, and even with this pandemic, if you take that away, if you take away live shows and the ability for people to perform and go see a performance, musicians and fans are going to figure something out. And they did. Whether it's like you guys said, like, I don't know if you guys saw this, Dropkick Murphys. Now, they're a much bigger band, right? They're a really popular band. They rented out a club and did a live show thing, and it was awesome.
They did it in the baseball field in Boston. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, of course it was in Boston. It was the shit. It was awesome. And so they like we don't have the capability of doing that, right? But they do, and just things like that, or just all the way down to like, a performance in your living room and you're doing a live stream or something on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Like, there's going to be a way to be able to figure something out. So even after like this, whatever the new normal is, once the pandemic we can kind of get back to whatever that new normal is, things are probably going to change a little bit from like they always do and evolve from a music industry standpoint, and people still doing things on their own or doing, you know, things differently than they did before.
Yeah, I think so. The whole like, oh, I'm in a band, we got signed. I think it's lost its luster since the like social media has become a very prominent part.
Yeah.
Before, when the internet really wasn't there and social media, like every band's like, oh, I want to get it, because getting discovered and signed was harder to do.
Yes.
But you make being signed and making an album, that the money's not in the album or being signed. The money's in touring and your merch. That's where you're making your money, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how big you are, but if you're like a band that's trying to do it on your own and you don't have like a big label backing you, you might be on like a relatively decent label who helps with distribution of your records. They might help with tour support, with doing the booking and all that kind of stuff, making sure that you're getting good guarantees every night so you know how much money you're going to be bringing in so you can feel comfortable while you're out on the road. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty much like you're doing it on your own. Like back in the day when I was trying, like I quit my job, I sold everything I owned. I was in this band that was on a label. We were going to play Warped Tour. I sacrificed everything that I had. And the only type of like outlet on the internet was MySpace. And so it was like, we had a MySpace and we're trying to like, and so, yeah, you're not making any money doing it that way. But if you have merch, like you said, and you're able to get some guarantees to keep yourself afloat, the money that you're actually making, your income for the band is in your merch sales, your shirts, your CDs, whatever it is, you know, stuff like that. So, and even now, we don't even print CDs anymore. Our band, we print vinyl. Because vinyl made a comeback and nobody wants to buy CDs anymore. And with streaming service, it's like, why would they? I don't, but vinyl has made a comeback. So the only physical copy of the music you can get from us now is a record, because
I have them.
Yeah, because other than that,
they're good. They're good.
You can just go online and listen to it like we all do. So it's almost kind of like the rarity or the coolness factor of being able to have that physical album, which we love, and a couple of guys in the band, a few guys love vinyl, but with CDs, it's like, dude, we have stacks of CDs that from old albums that we have that we bring to shows and stuff, and it's like we still have boxes of CDs that were printed 10 years ago, you know what I mean, for like the first, second, and third album that were recorded, that just there's no reason to, if you can just go on Spotify, you know.
Yeah,
right.
Because when I first met Chris and we started talking behind the scenes, I'm like, well, where can I physically go and buy your CD? Like, I want to buy that so you get the money. He goes, dude, we don't make really any money off of it. Just go get it from Apple Music for free or something. I'm like, Chris, I want to physically own something.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, we have vinyls. He goes, I'll send you some vinyls. I'm like, no, you won't. And as I'm talking to him, he goes, I'll send it for free. I'm like,
you bought them.
No, you won't.
Well,
I told you I'm buying it. You can't argue with
it. We sent you Columbia with the Built for This record as well, because I wanted you to have
he sent me the one that I wasn't able to buy because it wasn't there to buy.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like vinyl is expensive, right? So it's almost like, hey, for those like a Gary who are like, I want that. Like that's my thing. I want the vinyl. It's expensive to make vinyl. They're really expensive, right? And so you can only, and then depending on how much the run of, you know, are you going to do 200? Are you going to do 500? Are you going to do 1,000? It gets expensive. And so as a band, once again, coming back to the DIY thing, if we're fitting the bill to press a bunch of vinyl and then we can't get rid of it, now we're out that money and we just have a stack of albums sitting in our garage, right? And so it's like it's all a balance. And like we talked about before, we had gotten those records printed for Built for This, and we were going to get merch and do the whole thing, and then obviously the COVID thing kicked in and kind of put the kibosh on that for everybody. But once we get back into the swing of things again, we'll get back on track again. We'll be back at shows, selling records, getting new merch out there. I mean, that's what we do. So it's going to happen.
Very cool. Very cool.
Guys, go to Apple Music, Spotify, or whatever it is you download music. My Life in Black and White. At least the last 2 albums that I know Chris drummed on, those are what I have constantly playing when I'm working.
Great music.
Amazing. Like,
yeah, absolutely amazing.
Like, if you like that genre, you'll like it, and it's not harsh. Like, the vocals are just, I don't want to say they're soft, but they're enjoyable. Like, it's not something where there's some songs where if you listen to it 3 times, I'm done. I've literally had both the albums on replay for hours upon hours upon hours. And if I'm live streaming, lately, for whatever reason, if I play a song and I start going live on IG, it'll replay that same song over. It won't change songs even on shuffle. So I've listened to Working Man like 100 times in a row. Or there's a song about San Francisco or something. I can't remember the name of it.
It's called San Francisco.
Yeah. And then there's one about something about a girl in Baltimore. Like, I just listen. It's great music. Download it. Listen to it for free. Because even if you're not buying it, just listen to it. Because when these guys do hit it back, and if they ever do come to a town near you, you're gonna want to check these guys out. I mean, they're on videos on YouTube. There's not a lot of new videos because of COVID. But the Working Man video is a good video. I've watched it.
Yeah, it is.
It's in the tour, but in the van. Seen that one.
The ones I listen to are what Bombs on Blair Mountain.
Yeah, that's like an older song that was previously recorded by the old drummer, but that's one of my favorite songs. That's the other thing that's kind of cool about coming into the band with 3 other records is like I can come in as a fan of some of the songs. Now it's a little bit different because I've been playing them for years and years. But like when I first joined, I'm like, this is sweet. I get to like play these songs, and I like these songs because I like these guys. They're my friends. I like this band. So Bombs on Blair Mountain is still one of my favorite songs ever, and it's one of my favorite songs to play every time we play that song. I love that.
That's cool, man. That's very cool.
It really just gets you going. I mean, I listened to a lot today, along with the Working Man.
Yeah,
it was like get ready for the day music. You know, it was just like just energetic. You can listen to it, just like what Gary's saying. Just listen to it all day long. I woke up this morning, put it on, took my kid to work or school, wherever he's going, and then I played it in the shower while I was doing my thing, getting ready. Awesome stuff.
I think that the fans that come out and watch us play, you can see that it's a band, it's a toe tapping band, man. It's punk rock band like that. It's fast paced. Like you're not, there are some people that like myself, just maybe and Gary stand back and listen and stuff. But for the most part, most people are rocking out, and I think that's what makes it worthwhile too. Like,
it's not the style of punk rock that's like real fast and it's like it's seriously.
It's all of the above. There's some faster tempoed songs, mid tempo. The other thing about us too, 2 things I'd say that I don't want to say set us apart because lots of bands do this, but 2 things in our genre that are a little bit different that we do, not only with the acoustic and electric kind of feel together, is that we have a lot of harmonies. Everyone in the band is singing, right? So there's 3-part harmonies. I sing backups. Our rhythm guitar player, our lead guitar player is an excellent singer. So there's lots of songs in there where we're singing 3-part harmonies. And it's actually all 3 of us doing the same thing that we do when we play live. Like, I mean, I have a mic, we all have mics, like we're singing together. And another thing that's kind of cool, like with Bombs on Blair Mountain, James, like you said, you like that song. If you actually go and like read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics, one thing that I love about being in this band and Dylan's songwriting is he's a storyteller. He's really, really good at storytelling through song and music, which is difficult to do for some people. Like, I'm not that kind of a songwriter. I might come up with some melodies. I might, like I said, come up with some arrangements. He's just good at it with the words and coming up with, being able to kind of tell you a story from beginning to end in a 2.5 minute or 3 minute song, and it's pretty cool. And he writes about a lot of, traveling and things he's done and places we've gone and being on the road and our families and all that kind of stuff. Or
like Dylan and Young, but in a punk rock, ska, Irish style. I mean, like
I love it, man. It's good stuff. I'm glad you're part of this. This is how absolutely fun.
Andy had a guest on a couple weeks ago that I had never heard, but his name was Dusty Bo. Look him up, Chris. I think you'll like him. It's a different style of music than what you play, but as a musician, musicians appreciate other musicians' work. I think you'll really dig his style.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will check that out. I was watching that episode today.
He actually had his guitar and played live. So
I know.
It's like right in the background. It's like just chilling in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that
was like a live concert. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to have you back maybe with Dylan. You need to get one of those drum boxes you sit on and you tap. You know what I'm talking about?
I have one right behind me.
You got one?
Yeah, it's called a cajon.
Yes, there you go. And get Dylan with his guitar.
And we've done stuff like that too. Like if there's a venue that it doesn't really call for the full blasting your face off with punk rock, but they still want, because that's the cool thing about this band is it's a little bit pliable with the acoustic thing that we can play some of those things slowed down a little bit. Dylan's got the acoustic, I'm on the cajon, and the other guys are playing acoustic guitar, and you can kind of folk it up a little bit more so it's not so in your face. And we've done like Rancid covers and stuff like that and other things.
Cool.
And so and just like in our own style of that way, which is pretty fun to do, because if you're going to play a full bore Rancid cover, you're just going to play it like you know what I mean, like
we really want My Life in Black and White acoustic version back on the show at some point.
We post that
whatever we got to, because that's Andy's vision and Andy and James' vision for the show. And like this is the first official Tasty Licks show,
right?
And it's only going to get bigger and better from here. We're not going to have all my crap behind me. Like I had a camera issue, green screen, you saw it. Anyway, you're a little professional. So we want to go, with the food or the tours, everything we've talked about. We want your non-traditional musical interviews, even if we include some songs. Like Dusty sang a few songs for us, which was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want you back. I'm sure Andy wants you back.
Oh yeah.
James probably doesn't ever want to see you again.
Makes sense. That's
never.
Yeah.
That's more of a comment.
I threw it up there like I think like all the guests that we have like at the end have just like a big old live stream like at the end of it, and just kind of get everybody up together, and if they want to play, they want to play or whatever.
There you go.
Here's what
I love music, man.
The studio,
music is my.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the studio that we have, once we're all back to doing it again, it's got our computers set up and stuff where John does all the recording, and then it's got the whole big area with all the carpets and stuff where we have all of our stuff set up, and then we have this other kind of like almost like a riser stage thing with a couch and stuff all wrapped around too. So it's like a full on. It would be the perfect area for us to be able to sit down, have talk about some stuff, and then we could go over to the other area and play some stuff. We could do some acoustic stuff. We'd be able to set up more cameras in there and actually prepare to do
awesome.
Like that. So we definitely have the means to be able to do that in the future for sure, and not too distant future.
Our goal was just to get the introduction of My Life in Black and White. This is who they are, because you could tell the story. You've been with the guys for, like you said, since 2012, right?
Yeah.
So 9 years. You know their history. So we want everybody to figure out this is who, not just because I've been playing them pretty much anytime I go live. This is who the band is. This is who the drummer is. It's a real person. You can put the face to the music. You get the hear and then this is why, if you can't play, you can't play. Like that, who cares at this point? We wanted to get the exposure, and this is kind of Andy's and James. I say Andy's vision a lot just because I talk to him the most, James. So I apologize. When I talk to Andy, he's like, I want to talk to the bands who aren't Taylor Swift and Metallica. Everybody knows those. The guys who are just starting out, or maybe they've been around a while, not real known, but they've got an album coming out. Let's talk to these guys. Just even if it's 2 people watching, that's 2 more people that weren't going to watch yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I think we were trying to do with My Life in Black and White. Get your name out there, get some exposure.
Absolutely.
Right.
The tour again. Our viewers and friends are in all over the world.
Right.
All over the country. I mean, Andy's in Arizona, so he's more likely to see you than I am over here in Maryland.
You have to go out to Arizona, man. You're gonna have to come down. You're gonna have to come down.
My parents live in Arizona.
Theater would be a great place.
Oh, right there, man. If you come out, look me up, buddy. Before you when you come out, we'll go out to dinner.
Coast tour. We'll get some lobster rolls. We'll come up to Maryland and do some stuff over there.
That's right.
I mean, Maryland's not a lobster roll place. Maybe some crab.
We'll do.
We can have lobster rolls, but it's not like I could tell you, I'm an Arizona boy. I'm 36 years. I lived in Arizona. I moved here and kind of like maybe, I don't know if you've had any of these kind of experiences, but I'm like, I love Mexican food. That's just, grew up an hour from the border of Mexico. I moved to the East Coast. Good luck finding good. Well, they have Mexican food, what they call Mexican food, but it's not Mexican food.
Right.
So good luck with that. Right. You know what's funny? Right. I transition this into a tour question. You're from the Pacific Northwest, so there's probably seafood is probably something you're big on, and beer. So when you tour these other places, how many times do you get disappointed? You're like, oh, I'm going to go grab some fish and chips, and it's like McDonald's Filet-O-Fish and some French fries. Like it's
like your traditional is like not there. It's like what they do is not what you're.
The best fish and chips I ever had was in Gig Harbor in Washington. Yeah. Best fish and chips I've ever had. So obviously, there's the seafood's there. So what's your biggest food disappointment going on tour where you're like, oh, I'm going to get this because I'm craving it from home. And then it's like, oh, it's an Oscar Mayer hot dog. Like what?
So, in the States, it just depends on where you are, right? Like, I mean, we have great Mexican food here too. I think all up the West Coast, you're probably going to be able to find some pretty good Mexican food. But going back to like, let's say, I mean, again, touring in the States and touring in Europe, like we've talked about, two very different things, right? No Mexican food that I could find in Europe, like none. No.
Oh, good luck. Maybe in Spain, but
like we couldn't find anything. And so when I got home, like, I mean, I like authentic Mexican food, so I want something good. But by the time I got home and I had my now wife pick me up from the airport, I was like, we're going to Chipotle. Like, I don't even care if it's Chipotle. I need rice, beans, chicken, salsa, like,
something that accumulates.
That's the first thing I do when I go back to Arizona. I'm like, we're going to Filiberto's. I'm getting the greasiest, nastiest taco and burrito.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting.
Like, I knew I couldn't go get like the genuine stuff, so I was like, I just need something that resembles, like, I mean, if Chipotle was closed, I would have gone to Taco Bell. I'm like, I need something that resembles a taco because and the food was good and it was great. But after you're there for like 3 weeks or a month, you're just like, dude, like, I need that staple. So it just depends on like where you are. But
Taco Bell reference is golden. I say it all the time. I'm like, oh, the best Mexican food we have here is probably Taco Bell, and that's not even Mexican food.
No,
that's
it's not.
Bad it is here.
That's horrible. I feel
they have a tortilla, maybe.
Yeah,
it may not made by Nana. That's for sure.
Yeah, we got some great Mexican restaurants around here too, and I always have loved Mexican food. I really do. But so yeah, I guess it just depends on where you go. But if you're doing like a West Coast tour and you're going down to California and you're getting in like San Diego and stuff like that, you're gonna get you're good. Like, you're pretty set up. And most of the stuff that you're used to where you live here, they're gonna have there. So like within the States, it doesn't really happen all that much. I think more what happens is that you just, like I said, you're traveling and you just don't have time to like find the spots or go wherever unless you have some time off.
Fast food wise, if you're touring the West Coast, if you got an In-N-Out, a Del Taco, Baja Fresh, Rubio's, or Chipotle, you're good.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna eat well. You're not gonna find the mom and pop spots unless you're lucky to have one near your venue.
Yeah.
But when you're playing places you've never been before, good luck, right? Like it's like
and you could, I mean, now especially too, you're like, okay, we're taking this route. We know that by the time we get to where we're going for the club, we're going to be passing, these restaurants. So we'll stop. I mean, you got to eat. You make it work. But yeah, when you're out in different countries and stuff, like you're not finding burritos in Slovakia. That's not something.
Well, let's be honest. When you're on tour, you're like, there's a 7-Eleven here, but if we go 10 more miles, there's a Quick Trip. So just keep driving.
Yeah, we're going to Quick Trip.
Quick Trips are like
we're going to QT.
Yeah, QTs for the East Coast guys. James, QTs is like the Wawa on the sheets of the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I go get my gas, and they have food there too.
But my wife is from St. Louis area, is where she grew up, and so whenever we go back to like Missouri, there's QTs there. It's like if you go to like a Shell station, like a regular gas station with a little mini mart here, and then you go to a QT, that's like going to a super Walmart compared to like a Chevron station. I was like, man, they got like everything here. This is crazy.
And we don't have QT here, but we do have equivalents that are like got the little cafe. We get all the hot fresh food, and I love going to get the hot pretzel with the cheese. I don't know why, but that's my favorite thing to get from Quick Trip: the pretzel and cheese. That's it.
Who doesn't want a pretzel with cheese?
I mean, yeah. And from a gas station, it's pretty dang good. Like, it's not the worst. I would take that over a hot dog at a gas station any day.
You probably
every time I go to Wawa and get I don't get pretzels at Wawa because they're like always rock freaking hard.
Yeah.
And then
sandwiches.
Oh, the sandwiches. Oh my god.
You know why they call it Wawa, even though this is not music related? Because there's
like, the goose, a goose
logo, because the goose goes wah wah. That's why.
No,
well, they have the goose on the actual logo too.
Goose is on the logo. But that's why it's called Wawa, because it's. Wah, wah, wah.
You learn something new every day.
The more you know.
So if you ever come to the East Coast, you can be like, "What gas station you want to go to?" Wah, wah, wah.
All right, that makes sense. I like that.
Just remember goose. That's all you can remember. Or geese.
So James, we know we got to the time where it's time to find out what the man has made. What is it that you made this week, my friend?
That we don't get.
What do you got? What do you got?
This is what I brought snacking food. So this is about snacking too. So I bought these organic garden veggie straw sea salt things that my wife bought. The biggest bag known to man. I don't know if you could. God. This is my face. This is how big these things are, and I can't get rid of them. So I just keep trying to eat them everywhere I go because they're supposed to be healthy. They're
on. James needs to make.
They're okay.
Like on Monday, and then overnight it or ship it to all of whoever's on the show. So we have his dessert.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. At least the cookies. At least the cookies.
There you go.
If I
these are
for the
these are like thumbprint.
Oh,
I love thumbprint like chocolate, peanut butter chocolate with like the little mini like Reese's.
Tasty chocolate chips. There you go.
Yeah.
He makes good cookies. So James sent me these red velvet cookies. So it was like red velvet cheesecake. So it was red velvet and had like a cheesecake kind of icing feeling in the middle. But when you warmed it up just a little bit, dude, it was like slap your mama so good. He's like he's the number 2 cookie maker in the beer world. If we're gonna go to that,
Bluegrass,
Mrs. Bluegrass cookies. When they do charity auctions, we'll get $400 or $500 for a dozen of these.
You told me about this. That's what I was wondering. If it was
crazy. It's crazy. I thought I had one on. I did a charity thing for my grandson because it was like November, and it's my grandson. He has Down syndrome, so. We were doing, Van, very cool kid. So we did this chair, and I was like, everything's going about $50-$60, which is typical. Freaking $200 on Bluegrass cookies. I'm like, no way, that's crazy. Awesome, very crazy, awesome.
Maniac who keeps bidding way high in these cookies, and everybody.
There's this dude that he's a big punk rock fan, and he drives those prices up. I heard he's from Arizona, and kind of a big jerk sometimes. He has a lot of goddamn hats.
I didn't see any hat changes today.
I know. Look at that. He has a wardrobe change for every hour. He literally has a hat for every hour.
So I have a question. I don't know because we wanted to keep the show for an hour. We kind of
yeah.
2 questions, Chris. What has been your most favorite band that you've played with, like at a show, not for, but with? And what band would you love to play a show with? What's your dream? What's your favorite so far? And then what's your dream band to open up for, the headline for, like anything?
Jeez, man. That's a hard question.
And number 3, what band, if you can have any band call you right now saying, hey, Chris, we need a drummer tomorrow night, fly out here, boom. What band is that going to be?
Great question.
Like, what would give you a heart attack at 2 a.m. if you got a phone call saying, hey, we need you on a flight tonight to Ontario because you're playing for us. Our drummer fell off the bus and broke his leg because he's silly. We need you, Chris. You're the man. We got to have you. Who's that band?
That's
oh, my God.
I would say favorite band.
Dead or alive. It don't matter.
Favorite band that I played with at the time, because like I said, things have changed a lot, right? So at the time when I was younger, like I said, we had played a show with Taking Back Sunday, and that was like when their hit album was like just starting to take off. So it was a packed show, tons of people there. We played with when Finch was a really big band, we got to play with them. So I think
cool.
that, and things have changed that we haven't really been able to play as the local opener for bands like that anymore. Plus I was younger, so I was just like, this is my dream. I'm playing with like these cool bands that are, on these labels that I like and stuff. So I'd say probably, Taking Back Sunday was a pretty fun band to play with back in the day, many moons ago. A band. So if a band, I think it'd be the same. So one of my very favorite punk bands is Strung Out. So I don't know if you listen to Strung Out. They are.
Now that's who you would like to play with in the future. Like if
that's a band that I would either want to play a show with, or if they said, hey, even if I got to play one song with them, that would be awesome, because they're really, really good, super technical drumming, fast, ripping band. I've listened to that band for 25 years, and I've just always loved that band since I was a kid. So, and I listened to them yesterday. Like I listen to that band all the time. So if you aren't familiar with Strung Out, listen to Strung Out. They're an amazing, amazing band. And if you like a little bit of that metal, ripping guitar playing stuff in your punk rock, listen to them, because they're incredible.
Oh, cool.
Also, and you answered 2 questions with one band. So I got another question for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to give an answer to this question as well. What is the one band in any genre, but one band that you think is the most underrated band that you would like to say to help maybe get some exposure to? I'm going to say one of my favorite underrated bands is Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Love those guys.
They have
one hit that people probably know.
Yeah.
But what's a band that you want besides My Life in Black and White? Y'all go listen, go. What would you say? You know what? Go check out this band. That we have access to. Obviously, we got to be able to find them somewhere.
So I would say that the band that I had talked about before, who was some friends of ours on Fat Records. So Fat Records, as you know, owned by Fat Mike, No Effects. Okay. So there's a gamut of bands that have been on that label or on that label, from really popular punk bands that everybody knows, like No Effects.
Now Flagwagon, you had
tons of bands.
Yeah.
Same with Epitaph. That's a great label. Lots of good bands on there, Bad Religion and Face to Face, and they've been on Fat Records. And anyway, so our boys, my homeboys in Get Dead, are a band that have worked their asses off for a really long time. And there's kind of a funny story out there that Fat Mike from Fat Records said he basically just signed them. He's like, they're not the greatest band in the world, but he signed them because of just like how kind of crazy their singer Sam is, and just what kind of a crazy show they put on, and they work their asses off. And so I think they've had their latest record that just came out not too long ago, might be it's either their second or third record on Fat Records. And after listening to that, you can tell they've just taken a huge leap in their quality of their songwriting, the professionalism.
Are they punk rock?
They're a punk rock band, yeah. And I think that you, especially Gary, knowing what you like and what you listen to, would really, really dig their latest record. But they're a band that I think, is just slowly but surely working their way. And they tour their asses off. I mean, these dudes have toured, and they've toured all over the place. They've been to Europe multiple times. I think they've been to Japan. They've been to Australia. Like they work really, really hard. This is what they do. And so they're a band that I would always suggest people go check out, especially with their new record, because it's really, really good, and they have taken leaps and bounds as a band.
It makes sense that Fat Mike likes the guy because he's crazy. Because Fat Mike is crazy. He wears dresses. He dresses in drag for shows, and it's literally like his songs are kind of out there sometimes, very controversial. But that's what punk rock is. Like punk rock are the scrappers, the loners, the guys who are just.
That's why he liked
to survive. And that's
they were still that epitome of a punk rock band, even though a lot of the quote unquote punk bands weren't. They weren't like, you're not punk, like they're a band where you're like, now that guy is punk. Like he's the kind of dude that'll get in a fight with some guy in a parking lot because he got too wasted and get knocked out and then get up and go play a show. And you want to know what's funny about that story? That actually happened, and I was there to witness it.
Yeah.
Those dudes. So I'd have to stand back a little ways when I watch them do their thing because they're nuts, and I am not like that at all. But they're a band that has worked really, really hard to get where they are, and they're
you got punk, and you got punk. Like you got like No Effects, and you got Simple Plan. Like there's a difference. You mean like no knock on Simple Plan? They're great. But No Effects is like the epitome of punk rock. Like they don't do the big label stuff; they do it themselves. They started their own records. They do it for themselves. They do it for the people. They don't charge you $1,000 to come watch them play.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. I remember in the 80s, so I am an 80s kid, and 80s kids, punk was really big in England, and I lived over in England, and I remember the spiked hair and the black freaking dog chains and guys with freaking, like, they had the gloves with the freaking studs on them, the metal studs on them, and they were ready to rock anybody all the time. Scary as, when I was a kid, I was scary. I was like, who's that guy? Cool as hell. Cool as freaking hell. You always wanted to be that guy, the guy with the big leather coat.
A lot of the nice guys too.
They are, really, honestly, they are.
Guys aren't mean.
Yeah, no, not at all. You know what? My stepson played in a couple bands, and he's into what is the no drug, no they do no drugs, and they're a punk scene place. Straight edge, yeah. So he's a straight edge, or he was a straight edger. Now he's not. But when he was younger, he was all straight edge, and he would go to these bands and get beat up.
Yeah, man.
He'd go to a venue, and he'd be like, "I was hanging on the rafters," and I'm just like, "Holy crap!" And you were playing bass? What?
Those dudes still show up at our shows, man. Like all I've seen, it's like my personality and who I am as an individual can be completely different from the crowd of people that come to watch our band play. It's just the mindset that people get into when they're going to a show and the kind of music that they listen to and stuff. And so we've gotten all sorts of different, guys like Sharps and, the anti-Nazi guys, we've seen like Nazi skinhead punk rock guys come to the show, and then they're getting their asses kicked by the straight edge guys and, all this stuff. It's just like, to me, I'm just like, man,
it's punk rock right there.
Well, I'm going to go hide in the green room and then just let me know like when we're on, and I'll come out and play.
That's right. We're old now. Okay, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up for tonight. We've gone an extra half an hour. I try to keep these down to an hour because, just because. But you know what? I totally appreciate you coming on, Chris. I think all of us have just had a freaking blast tonight. And anybody who's watching this on replay, thank you for watching. And anybody watching tonight, totally awesome. Chris, thank you, man. This was the
first official guest on Tasty Licks.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Thank you, guys.
And we hope to have you on again, my friend, with some music. We'll throw some music in there next time. Right on, man. Right on. We totally appreciate your time. Yeah. Any last words, Chris?
I just hope everybody stays healthy out there and we get through all this crap so we can get back to playing shows again, man. I miss it. I miss the venues being open. I miss seeing the fans playing music and all that stuff. So let's just hope that we can get through whatever we need to get through so we can get clubs back open again and get rocking.
That's right. That's right. Any last words, G?
Man, just stay healthy, stay real, and come back next week. Tasty Licks. This is the place.
That's right. That's right. James, what's going on, buddy? What do you got going? Yeah. You got any last words, my friend?
That was great to have you on, Chris. We'll definitely have to have you on again as well. Definitely enjoy listening to your guys' music, and I look forward to seeing what you guys put out. I'm definitely one of those crazies in the shows as well. I do enjoy mosh pits. So
hell yeah.
I'll always be in
cookies.
Cookies and mosh pits. Well, We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you all for coming on in. And again, Chris, what an awesome time to be able to explore your experiences and talk with a awesome band. Again, My Life in Black and White. Go check them out on any of your music listening apps. I found them this morning on Apple Music. I know they're on Spotify. They're on everything. Go check them out. Amazing band.
Up, we will be linking the bands that we talked to in their stuff too, so you'll be able to get that information
for sure. I'll be linking them down below. So if you catch this, link down below to an awesome band. We will talk to you later. Again, thank you very much, Chris, and we are out of here. Rock on, guys.